Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new project I'm going to be starting. I am your host, Cursebreaker, and I'm going to be talking about League of Legends professional play. This is something I've kind of been passionate about for the past 2 or 3 years, ever since the pandemic struck. I've been able to watch tons and tons of professional league. I've really fallen in love with it. I keep up mainly with the LPL and the LCK. I watch almost every game in the LEC as well, definitely all the playoffs, and certainly everything international. I don't watch too much LCS these days just because the quality of play has declined pretty precipitously since 2020 when I started watching, and I just can't bear it anymore. But anyway, without any further ado, this is going to be the first of a series of 5 videos where I talk about my opinion of the best laners in the game. So I figured why not start with the top lane. So before we get into it, this is the pool I pulled from. These are just the players that I think stick out as the ones that are worth really considering here. So, obviously there's other players to be considered here, but I think these are kind of like the main suspects. For the honorable mentions, these are the people that didn't make the list. The first person, and these are actually in a particular order, is the Shy. I really think the Shy passes the eye test in terms of being a really good player. He's the one that always sticks out. People always have that iconic memory of how the Shy played in Worlds in, I guess, 2018 now, but he is still very much that same kind of player. He's just he's a beast. The second player I want to mention is Keen. Keen almost made it internationally. He hasn't been that great internationally when he has made it in the past, but he's a player that just was tremendous in the LCK and had a tremendous amount of burden placed upon him. So I definitely think that he was someone who almost made this list. Same thing with Breathe. Breathe was on kind of in ELO hell on RNG this season. But he's obviously a very strong player. And then I actually do think it's worthwhile to mention Broken Blade just because of the amount of quality performances he put in at MSI. And I feel like I would be remiss in my duty to not say that he was absolutely among at least the top 9 top laners. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the top 5 top laners in the entire world, in my opinion. So first and foremost, or I guess fifth, we'll start with Shanji. This is OMG's top laner. He played an extremely quality season this year, in my opinion. He's one of the most difficult top laners to prepare for with his insane variety of picks. I mean, you can see on the screen here, he's kind of the progenitor of the Ignite Rumble. He plays tons and tons of Kennen and is really proficient on it. He'll pull out a Victor or a Lilia, any kind of AP champ. Last season he was an innovator of the AP Shyvana top. This guy has really got a ton of potential for improvement. He's a new player, and there's just a lot of road for improvement for him, and I think that he probably will. He almost made it to MSI with a pretty limited roster. So if you guys don't know, OMG was a team that kind of is known as the fighting team, and boy did they fight. And yeah, I mean, they pretty much have to scrap it out. They have to play like one specific style due to kind of their mid laner Cream having a very limited champ pool, but he's extremely good on those champs. So OMG is just a really interesting team, and I think Shanji is one of the core reasons why that team works so well. Shanji, Rumble's his most iconic champ. He plays a great Kennen. He was really good at Kennen this year. It was vital to be important, or is vitally important to be good at Kennen, just because of how the spring LPL metagame was. This champion was very highly praised. And if they couldn't pick this, it would have been disastrous for their draft overall, just because of, like I said, the limitation issues with Cream. Obviously, he does play tanks, but he's not really known for that. So he's probably going to be able to improve all these tanks. Hopefully he can improve all these tanks and learn to play weak side, but he can play weak side on these carry champs. He just is not the greatest weak side tank player, which maybe wouldn't have worked out too great for him at this MSI, for example. The next champion, the next player that I have on my list is Ale. If you guys don't know, Ale is the former top laner at LNG, current top laner of EDG, and he had a fantastic regular season in the spring split of 2023. Like, one of the least exploitable top laners, so like you'll pretty much never be able to generate like a huge top diff game in a game where Ale is like who you're facing down, which I think is a really commendable thing to have. He has a ton of variety on his picks, like, so obviously he can slam you on a side laner like Jax. He's when he does pick Renekton, he does like to play the Prowler Squall, play the Rune King. Now that build doesn't really exist anymore, but that's almost an assassin in the top lane. Just going for backline access, that kind of stuff. He will definitely pull out a tank. We saw him pull out Malphite. He was unable to win, but he did get a pentakill, so I'm pretty willing to say that he wasn't the problem in that game where he was eliminated versus Billy. But it just shows his willingness to play the tank and play it well. But yeah, I think he pretty much every time I've seen Ala in pro play, I've been impressed with his play. So I did initially have him higher than the next player on this list, but as I kind of went through it further, I felt I just had so much more to say about this player, and I just really felt like he was, he just deserved a bit more respect. I'm sure you guys expect maybe this guy to be a little higher. I have been as my third best top laner in the world. Bin has some consistency issues in the regular season. Anyone who denies this hasn't watched enough of regular season Bin. Now, I'm not to say that he's not the most spectacular player when it gets to the postseason and when it gets to crunch time, because he truly is. He's one of the players that is able to turn up to the next level and really show up for these big games and big clutch moments. I personally think he's one of the players that performs the very best under pressure. You look at how he plays in World Finals. Pulling out the Fiora in elimination games and getting wins. He's great. I don't know what else to say about Ben. He pretty much was a Gnar one-trick this split. Not a one-trick, but he played a lot of Gnar. Gnar being kind of, I think, the quintessential Bin pick. He's able to side lane, team fight, do just kind of everything. But he can do that. He plays the strict side laner style extremely well with the Fiora and the Jax. Obviously his Jax is one of his most iconic champs for a reason. He's a really, really, really strong Jax player, but he can be a feast or famine kind of player, right? So that's why I don't have him a little higher, because you can get burnt with Bin. But I think that he may be starting to come out of that reputation and really move into a stable, top lane player. Now that he doesn't have to put on so much weight on his back, like Elk is really starting to come into his own. Bin is definitely starting to get better at the tanks. Like he's integrated them a lot into his game. We saw recently Sion. I think Sion is one of the champs that pretty much everyone plays, because it's a little bit perhaps overpowered, but he'll play that, he'll play the Kisante, he'll play he's gotten a lot more willing to play tanks, and definitely a lot more willing to play a less resource intensive style. So the next player I have is Zeus. Now, I know Zeus didn't particularly impress a lot of people at the World Championship, but all the people who were saying Zeus is bad or Zeus needs to get off T1 or anything, you must have not watched him domestically, because he was spectacular. I personally think that when Zeus is playing well, he's the best top laner, and it's not particularly close or maybe the Shy, but the Shy's got too much variance. I think in terms of a consistent. Well, at the same time, I mean, even Zeus has shown some consistency issues, but I think he's got a regular expected high level of play during the regular season, and he'll pretty much be able to carry you until you need to have a super clutch moment. And I'm not saying that he's a choker. I think T1 in general have some kind of leadership issue when it comes to winning the game when it gets to winning time. I think that might just need to be a coaching change, and I also think that players like Guma and Zeus and Owner, they'll get better and better with it. I think his international experience, it's starting to add up for especially Zeus, and he'll be a player with really high expectations on. I mean, if you thought the expectations were high on Zeus before, I think they should be even higher now, because he has everything he needs to succeed, everything he needs to win a world championship, in my opinion. I know the expectations are really high on T1, but I think that's pretty much where they deserve to be. And I think that the disappointing run from T1, I think people will kind of forget how disappointing T1 really ended up being when they have another. I mean, they'll have another dominant split. I'm confident in saying that. Now, this might be a bold shot call, and Zeus might, really start not being the player that everyone, was kind of preaching he is. A lot of players, when they start to falter internationally, they can never really break that habit. But from watching him and even watching the games that they lost, I don't think it's really Zeus's fault all that much. Obviously, Zeus played a lot of Gnar and a lot of Jace, so I think it really hurt him in this tournament that Jace was just not really a top lane meta pick at all. T1 did pick it, but it was actually used by Faker. I would have rather seen what Zeus could do with it. Now, Zeus wanted to play the core drinker. He's the innovator of the core drinker, Jace, and that's kind of where his name comes from, the Zeus thing. He's got the electric hammer, and Jace is kind of that guy. Kennen is the other champ that Zeus takes his name from, but Zeus or Zeus, whatever you want to call it. But I really think he's good, and I think that he is just generally maybe better on tanks at this point in his career, better on carries than he is on tanks in this point in his career. And I don't know if that's something that is going to be really super changeable. I mean, obviously he played a passable Scion. I think Scion's like a completely OP champ. But the inability to consistently lock in Gnar this MSI, I think, really hurt T1, considering they were just hard spamming it in the regular season. And this isn't about T1, this is actually about Zeus, but I think Zeus is an excellent player who was really hampered by a hard meta read at this tournament that it was protect the AD carry. And hopefully we can see some more Zeus action coming into the next split. And the last player, I feel like it's pretty obvious, the only name on this list that's really missing, 369. I mean, what can you say about 369 that hasn't been said? He's pretty much in my eyes, he's the best overall top laner. He can play with any level of resources. In 60% of his games, in fact, this season, he's been down gold at 15 minutes. But not because he's not a good player. It's because resources are going elsewhere. I mean, we're switching ruler top to get platings, or Knight is coming in and taking the kill. We don't even want it because you have two of the most impressive players on your team. But that's not to say that he can't carry. His Renekton is an extremely strong carry champ, and he's just learned how to win. Earlier on in his career, he was definitely known as an irregular player. Like 369, people would often, kind of meme him and be like, "Oh, rolled 3 today, buddy," Nowadays, I feel like he's just 999. He never really gets that super bad role that he used to get back in the day. His international experience is insane. Like, he has tons. 2020, 2022, 2023 MSI, now the winner of it. I mean, this is a player that, I mean, JDG are the other team that should be primed to win a world championship this season, and 369 is going to be a major part of that. His trajectory is really impressive, right? I don't know if you guys followed it as closely as I did, but he played on top, and then he was actually benched on top esports for Qingtian, which is a player who could play like, Gnar and Gragas and these champions that they really wanted to play in top lane that 369 quote unquote could not play, and they ended up trading him to JDG for Zoom, and Zoom is no more. I don't know if you guys know. I don't even know what happened to my man Zoom. He was a good top laner, but pretty much this is just, I wrote this little line down in the script that I need to shout out the JDG general manager, because wow, how do you manage to extract all the good parts of top esports and like get Ruler as your AD carry? Like, I don't even. They won the split. They won the 2020 spring split with Loken and Lumao as their bot lane, and this is what they're rocking with today. I think they only have Kanavi from that roster, but I don't think there's really too much more I need to say about 369. I mean, his Gragas is insane. I mean, you are basically picking this Gragas and slamming things like Gwen, anything with a weaker lane phase, and anything with a strong lane phase. 369 is not going to let you build a lead. Like, he may be the least exploitable top laner in general. And that's it. I mean, I think that's kind of unfortunately what top lane is right now, and that's why I have Zeus ranked so high. That's one of the other reasons why I think Zeus could be somebody who ends up in first place, because I will revisit these lists at the end of the season just to kind of see where I was right and where I was wrong. I hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion. Please, leave a list in the comments below if you guys have some disagreements. If you guys think my reasoning was bad, also, I'd like to, hear about that. We can discuss. I'd be willing to, like I said, I think I'll release another list at the end of the season with what I was wrong about, what I was right about. But until then, it's been Cursebreaker, and it's nice to meet you all.